What's up, everybody? What a card. This was a fantastic card. It had everything you needed from it. It had Fight of the Nights. It had upsets. It had fantastic finishes. It had everything to make a fantastic card. But let's go ahead and start with the prelims. Dominic Cruz setting the prelims on fire against Pedro Munoz. I mean, let's be honest. How did you guys really think that that fight was going to go? I mean, that fight was going to be fireworks regardless of what happened. I mean, this was going to be a stellar matchup to be made because Pedro Munoz brings it every single time when he fights. He comes forward and he tries to finish you. I love that. He's been a bit more cautious lately, which is weird, but he typically brings it. And then he caught Dominic Cruz. Even myself, I thought that the fight was over because Cruz got rocked, and what was really scary is that he stopped moving as well. The guy stopped moving his feet, and he stopped really using that head movement, and he kept getting peppered. And once it hit the ground, and then literally Pedro Munoz was just pounding his head into the dirt, I was like, oh my gosh, it's over. Cruz made one of the best bounce backs in UFC history. I mean, I'm talking about he got up and he brought it to Pedro Munoz, technically outclassing him on the feet. The 1-2 kept landing. Cruz has very awkward striking, very sloppy technique if you were to ask a specialist, but he brought it to Pedro Munoz, and regardless, he got the win, outpointing him, and to be honest, shutting him out and embarrassing Pedro Munoz. That was an embarrassing performance from Pedro Munoz, and a lot of people are going to give Pedro Munoz a lot of flack. I mean, Pedro Munoz is a good fighter, you guys. He's solid. He's got solid striking skills and very good jiu-jitsu, which was it was kind of weird to me that Dominic Cruz kept shooting on him, but considering Pedro Munoz has one of the nastiest guillotines in the sport. But, he stayed safe. He did everything he needed to do. And he ended up outclassing Pedro Munoz. So I'm going to go ahead and say it now. You guys are going to hear a lot of feedback in the background. You're going to hear a lot of noise because, I don't know, my family's being loud. And then there's people outside my house. They're like partying or celebrating or doing something. So I'm going to just go ahead and give you guys that warning is that you guys are going to hear stuff in the background. Hear voices. But try and focus on me. Okay, so anyway. And then on top of that, we had a fantastic main card. I mean, in my opinion, I think the only sleeper of the card, to be honest, the fight that I seen, the only boring fight was Jeff Neal versus Santiago Ponzinibbio. It was just a weird fight. They kept fouling each other. Nothing really landed cleanly. And then it was kind of a robbery that they decided to give it to Jeff Neal. The fight was so weird that I don't even want to talk about it. I don't even want to focus on it because, it was just, that was the only negative part of the fight or of the card in my opinion. But anyway, we looked down the card and, bro, we had Cody Garbrandt getting knocked out by Kai Kara-France. I mean, Cody Garbrandt needs a defensive coach, man. And I've been saying that. Everybody's like, Mark Henry saved Cody Garbrandt. I mean, he fought Rafael Assunção, you guys. That is his only win since 2017. I think Cody Garbrandt is 1-6 in his last 7, I think. I think that's the stat. I'm not 100% sure. Crazy, though. I just think that, in my opinion, Cody shouldn't have went down. I thought that it was dumb that he was going down 10 pounds in weight anyway. And then his main issue is just that he doesn't have good head movement. A lack of head movement. Whenever Cody throws, his head stays completely still. Completely still. Whenever you advance on him, it's like he freezes. He doesn't move his dang head out of the way of strikes. One moment in the fight where I knew that Cody was going to get cracked, because that was my prediction of this fight. I said, somebody's going to not be able to take the other guy's punishment. And so I thought, like, how Aldo went down to 35, how he's so much bigger than everyone, and he can just absorb the strikes because he's used to getting hit by bigger men. I thought Cody had the speed to go down to flyweight, and I thought that it was going to be a bit of a Jose Aldo factor where he can just bully these guys. Nope, I was completely wrong. But there was one moment in a fight. Kara-France, I believe, throws a naked, right hand, and it missed Cody. But it only missed because Kara-France misjudged the distance. That's all it was. And so, after that, I was like, man, I said, whenever he gets in range and Cody does not move his head out of the way of the strike, he's going to get dropped. I said that in my head. I was like, oh my gosh, that's not a good sign. And then Cody throws a naked kick, doesn't move his head out of the way, of course, and gets cracked. Kara-France had a 4-inch reach advantage too, which is weird because he was the shorter guy. But I mean, he cracked Cody, and it was the beginning of the end. And then I thought in my head, I was like, come on, Cody, you can recover from this. I said, swing back, move your head. He got against the fence and stand still. He stood completely still and allowed Kara France to just tee off on him, resulting in the end of the fight. Cody got knocked out in the most embarrassing way. It was his most embarrassing knockout I've ever seen. It tops him versus Pedro Munoz. That was embarrassing. And so my main thing is the trolls. Okay, I need to take a second to really dig into you trolls. Why do you guys go under fighters' social media immediately after they lose and go comment negative comments on there? I don't understand that. Why do you guys get so happy? Speaking directly to the trolls, because I even have them. I have 333 subscribers, and you guys troll me. I'm not talking to my supporters, of course. I'm just talking to the trolls who come and just comment stuff under people's social media. They're chasing the dream, bro. Half of us is living the dream. And you guys are just trolls. Stop trolling. Get a life. Stop being so negative. Stop being so happy to see another man's defeat. That is the weirdest thing I've ever seen before in my life. And you guys think I'm kidding. People immediately, after Cody Garbrandt got knocked out, they immediately go to his Instagram. Cody no chin, Cody no chin, Cody no chin garbage. And I know a lot of the trolls are led by Henry Cejudo, but Henry Cejudo is only tweeting just to stay relevant, let's be honest. He is fading out of relevancy. Nobody really cared about him as much to begin with. And so it's like he's trying to keep in the little fighter bubble. It's kind of like a Conor McGregor type thing. Except Conor's actually fighting, or he's trying to fight. Henry Cejudo is just talking crap just to make headlines and to keep his name relevant. So, anyway, now that I said that, yeah, you trolls are the scum of the earth. You guys don't deserve internet access just because you guys, it's just so weird. Amanda Nunes limited her comments because of trolls. She knew that people were going to come and just say garbage things. And it's not like just innocent jokes. It's like, you should retire, you're stupid, you're that, you're going to be brain dead. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys say such horrible things. You guys are terrible people, for real. Talking to the trolls, not to the supporters, of course. Anyway, so, yeah, man, he got knocked out. What's next for Cody, man? I don't know. I don't want it to be the end, but you guys really think about it. What is next for him, except getting lined up with these young prospects that is going to continue making a name off him? Honestly, if he moves back up to bantamweight, I wouldn't be mad if they made Sean O'Malley versus Cody Garbrandt. I wouldn't. People are going to automatically write off Cody because I understand. But hear me out that that's a competitive fight. If Cody doesn't get chinned, that is. He could really bring it to O'Malley and really compete with him on a technical level. But Cody doesn't move his head, doesn't have the best chin. Wouldn't be surprised if O'Malley chins him. Anyway, moving forward, and speaking of bad technique, let's talk about the biggest upset in UFC history. And, goodness, you guys, there's a lot to talk about in this one. I don't even know where to start. Okay, so let's just start about how the fight was going. So it started off and it looked like Juliana Pena was scared. I mean, it's a big moment for her. She's honestly never been on that type of stage. And it was just like a bit, I don't want to say exhausting, but it was just like, you can tell the anxiety levels were high, especially in that first round. It looked like she honestly didn't want much to do with defeat. And so I don't know what dropped her and how it got to the ground in the first place. People were saying it's a jab and it dropped Pena, but I didn't see that. It looked like Amanda was trying to stomp the knee, and then Amanda threw a kick and it swept her. I don't know exactly what that sequence was. It was a bad camera angle. And so all I know is that it goes to the ground and then they start grappling. Juliana grabbed a hold to a Kimura to kind of save her life from getting pounded out. It just looked like it wasn't going in the best way for Juliana Pena. It just seemed like it was a lamb being sent to the slaughter, let's be honest. Everybody thought that. Nobody gave Juliana Pena a chance in hell. Me, myself included. The crazy thing is that I was going to make a video talking about how Pena could win. But everybody was like, dude, Juliana Pena is not going to have anything on Amanda Nunes. First round knockout. I said that because Pena's sloppy technique on the feet. She's a very, 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 very sloppy. And so I just thought she was going to run into a big punch off Amanda and she was going to go out cold. Turns out Juliana Pena has a chin, a granite chin, that is. And, the first round went, not a lot of action. Damn near no action. I mean, they were just on the ground. Amanda was holding position. Juliana Pena was trying to go for what it looked like in Americana. And nothing really happened of it. The first round ends, blah, blah, blah. They get up, go back to the stool. The second round is almost as if a switch flipped. And this is where Amanda Nunes got exposed. Everybody was like, oh my gosh, she gassed out so fast. She's this, she's that. It was just a weird performance by Amanda. Dude, let me tell you something about Amanda Nunes. She wins most of her fights through power and size and strength. She is athletic than most of these girls, so she lands a bunch of heavy shots and she hits girls and they're like, what the hell just hit me? And they kind of freaked out. Look at that Megan Anderson fight. I mean, come on. She hit Megan Anderson once. Megan Anderson looked like she did not want to be in there. Like she would jump out of the octagon and run away after she got hit once by Amanda. A lot of girls fought Amanda Nunes scared. They were just scared of her. Nobody talked trash to Amanda and brought it to her the way Juliana Pena did. And so, basically, the tale of the tape, or the story of the second round, Juliana Pena got in her face and kept eating her with those jabs. You guys, was freaking out. I was jumping up. I was screaming. I think my family was like scared. They thought like something was happening to me because I was watching the fight on my TV in my room and I was screaming. I'm pretty sure I almost broke my phone. I was freaking out because I was in disbelief. I was stunned. Juliana Pena was waving forward and was just tagging Amanda Nunes, tagging her on the feet, tagging her, and at one point rocked her. What caused Amanda Nunes to gas out? It wasn't COVID. It wasn't the wrestling. It wasn't any of that. What caused her to gas out is that she punched herself out. That will happen to any conditioned athlete. Anybody. She punched herself out. That would happen to Usman. That would happen to Khabib. That would happen to anybody. If you sit there and then you just trade and trade and trade and trade, throwing everything into every single punch. She was launching rockets with everything she was throwing. And Pena just didn't get out of her face. She kept jabbing, kept throwing, and Amanda kept throwing with her like an idiot. And so what exposed Amanda Nunes is her lack of head movement when fighters push her back, when you bully the bully essentially. It exposed her. Big time. Big time. She has no head movement. She has no boxing technique. She just throws and just expect everything to happen through brute power and strength and force. I mean, just throws and throws. She abandoned the leg kicks, which were working, and she punched herself out. Juliana Pena then went under, scooped in for the takedown, and tapped Amanda Nunes out. Amanda could have easily squirmed out of that choke position, by the way. Juliana had no hooks. All she had was just her wrist around the neck and was cranking a choke. She tapped out. She could have easily got out of that, guys. She quit. She quit because she was exhausted. I don't want to hear this excuse of COVID and Amanda looked weird. I don't want to hear any of that. What happened is that she made giant errors. She didn't scoop in for the takedown. She didn't stick behind a jab because a jab would have kept Pena at bay. When they were trading, and it's so crazy. When they were trading, all she needed to do was jab. Pena's technique was sloppy as well, but Pena was the one throwing jabs. If Amanda would jab with her, she has the more powerful jab, it would have pushed Pena back. But nope, she decided to just throw haymakers with her, throwing everything into every single punch and punching herself out. That is what happened. That exposed Amanda Nunes. We now know Amanda can get pushed and she will gas out. She doesn't have the best gas tank. A lot of people are saying it was her moving up and down weight classes. Don't get me wrong. That could have a problem with it. But it's not COVID. It's not COVID. It's not. And I don't want to hear about that. Amanda is a conditioned athlete her entire life. It's not going to affect her lungs, the COVID thing. So it wasn't that. What it was is that she punched herself out. And I'm sick of people trying to spin the narrative of, oh, COVID, kind of giving her an excuse. Nah, man. It was just poor fight IQ. Poor fight IQ. And that will happen to any fighter. Any fighter. If they can walk through your punch and you just decide to keep throwing everything to get... It was kind of like a panic. She had no head movement. It was a panic It was like a panic escape plan. She just said, "Oh my gosh, I got to get her off me. I'm gonna keep swinging, keep swinging, keep swinging." Meanwhile, Pena is just peppering her with the jab, till eventually it rocked her. Straight punches beat looping punches, like my boy the Weasel likes to say. Juliana was actually using more technique than Amanda Nunes on the feet, outstruck her, and then got her to the ground, tapped her out. Amanda Nunes exposed for bad cardio, low fight IQ, and lack of head movement, and lack of striking technique. She got exposed for all of those things. She only wins her fights through size, athleticism, and power. Not saying Amanda doesn't have genuine striking skills. I actually do believe she could have outstruck and beat Juliana Pena if she just fought wisely, but that's where I said she has a lack of fight IQ to just sit there and swing and brawl. But she'd kick my butt. Both of them would. They would beat the hell out of me. So who am I? I'm just a guy with a microphone in his face with a stuffed nose. So, that is just my take on it. But crazy upset. What's next for both of these chicks? Honestly, a rematch. Obviously, a rematch. Amanda shouldn't lose the rematch because what her game needs is it was just a lack of technical errors. I mean, a massive hole of technical errors is what I meant to say. A bunch of technical errors that she could fix. If she gets a good coach, they could fix that, Stick behind a jab is one. She would have jabbed when freaking Juliana Pena was just throwing these sloppy techniques. She could have got her off of her. But nope. Or go to the body. Or shoot in for a takedown. There were so many options she could have went to. But, that's where that lack of gas tank goes in. Amanda has always had a gas tank problem. She gassed out against what's her face? Jermaine Durand to me. Is that a COVID issue? No, I don't think so. It's just that what happens is that they brought the fight to her. What's her face didn't have any damn takedown defense. That was the story of that fight. But Amanda was gassed in that. She went to wrestling. Amanda isn't even that high level of a wrestler. Man. I don't like the excuses people make for it. She got beat. It had Jermaine Durandamy had some takedown defense, she would have beat Amanda Nunes too. Because Amanda has a lack of defensive striking ability. She thinks her defense is swing. Because they're so afraid of my power. If I land, they're going to get off of me. That's her defense on striking. Same thing with Cody. Cody does the same thing. So it's like, who's going to win the rematch? Amanda should win. She should stick to the low calf kicks, stick to a jab, learn some boxing. And then, she should be able to knock out Juliana Pena. I really do. But Juliana Pena showed to have a good chin because she was getting cracked still. But, Amanda, man. Yeah, so a second fight. But all I know is that I'm glad Juliana won because it adds some spice to the division, to the 125 and 135. Because Pena said she wants the rematch with Valentina. Honestly, I don't spite her chances in that fight. She's bigger. She could just take Valentina down, and who knows? Nobody brings the fight to Valentina either. Everybody's scared of her too. So if she fights her like she's not scared, who's to say that it won't be the same result? She gets tired and then she relies on her striking technique or her grappling. But the thing is with Valentina, she's going to shoot in. She's going to try and shoot and save herself. She might shoot into a submission. Who knows, bro? Honestly, who knows? Nothing is impossible. Nothing is impossible. But I don't want to spend too much time. I don't want this podcast to be an hour long. So, yeah, what's next is a rematch, obviously. And if Amanda wants to take her time, have Juliana versus Valentina Shevchenko, line up your next bag. Make you some money, Juliana. It's your turn now. And new. But let's move on. All right, everybody. So let's talk about this main event. So Dustin Poirier loses to Charles Oliveira via rear naked choke in the third round, I believe. So, first of all, I want to say that this was a crazy fight. Only because the pace. The pace was insane. And that lack of head movement issue that I said Cody has? Charles Oliveira has that same issue. And literally, what was it? The first, 30 seconds of the fight, Dustin Poirier lands a good left hand and it drops Charles Oliveira. And I was like, already? How are you already getting dropped? And Charles got rocked multiple times in the fight. Got dropped, I think, twice in that first round. And I didn't think it was over because I was like, what is Dustin Poirier going to do? Follow him to the ground? That was my biggest issue with Dustin, is that how is he going to finish Charles? Charles is going to, when Charles gets rocked, he's going to drop to his back every single time, is what I thought. And I was like, is Dustin going to follow him? That could be a bad idea if he follows Dustin to the ground. Or he follows Charles to the ground. So, first things first was, I said that they were similar in power. Okay, I was wrong. Dustin has more power with his hands than Charles, but Charles shown to have the overall striking technique that was past Dustin, and I said that Charles has better striking technique than Dustin Poirier. Charles is no longer underrated after this fight. He pushed a heavy pace. I was surprised. That was the most shocking thing about Charles' performance was the pace that he set. He set a killer pace. It was fast. He kept clinching Dustin Poirier, which was also kind of strange, but it was a good game plan. If Dustin would, whenever they got into those mini brawls, Charles would just grab the back of that head and just knee Dustin to the body. Those knees would get Dustin momentarily off of him. Charles Oliveira would go to the teep kick that would hit Dustin straight in the tummy. Dustin said that they were not affecting him that bad. Bro, yeah, they were, because you would release some of that pressure. But Dustin shown to have the overall better power with the hands, dropping Charles Oliveira, rocking Charles Oliveira multiple times in the fight. Charles had the conditioning advantage, which was very strange. He came out there, pushed the pace, and did not gas out. And it was Dustin that was getting more winded than Charles. And, you know, Charles does not like to go backwards, is what I've seen in this fight. Charles is very uncomfortable when going backwards, because that's when he gets hit the most. It's what I said to Poirier. I was like, man, I said Dustin needs to be in his face. He needs to push Charles back ASAP to get more effect with it. And I was like, I was right, because when Dustin was pushing Charles back, it's like Dustin couldn't miss. He hit him every single time. Charles it's not a chin problem with Charles Oliveira. It's not his chin. It's his technique. It's his defense. He doesn't move his head, and he stands up very tall. And he doesn't tuck his chin. His chin is in the air. So every time a punch lands on him, it gets a big reaction because his chin is in the air. Straight up in the air. And so, yeah, man. And it was just like, you know, it was only a matter of time before he got cracked, but it never happened. And then everybody wants to it was a moment in the second round where Charles had almost an armbar on him or something. And he had his finger under the glove. Yes, that caused all of that to happen. It caused all that to happen because it forced Dustin to roll because Dustin couldn't get his arm out. Charles didn't grab under the glove. Dustin would have got his arm out. So it forced Dustin to roll, which was stupid. And then, you know, Charles ended up being on top for the majority of that round. And after that second round, just seeing how Dustin got up all labored to his face, I said, this fight is over. If Charles come out like a bat out of hell again, this fight is over. Third round, he immediately takes the back of Dustin and chokes him out. I mean, what a fight by Charles Oliveira. Honestly, a bit dominant. Not dominant. Okay, it was very competitive. But it was just like, it's shown that there's levels to this. Dustin Poirier, that whole journeyman title is going to follow him to the end of his career unless he wins that belt. Because I had a little bit of doubt saying that if Dustin loses this will likely be his last chance. Because it's like he's going to have to go through Murderer's Row again for the UFC to want to promote a rematch between those two. I like Dustin. It was a bit heartbreaking to see him to see him lose, but, you know, it is what it is. Charles Oliveira is the real champ, the defending champ. This now establishes that Charles Oliveira is the best in the division. Justin Gaethje looked a bit disappointed because, I mean, I understand. But he wanted to fight Dustin for the belt, and I get it. But nope, you're stuck with Charles, buddy. And from what it looks like, Charles come out with that kind of pace and backs Justin Gaethje up. The only X factor is the power of Gaethje. Dustin doesn't have that kind of power, and that's what I said in that I said, Dustin isn't that hard of a hitter. He's not a one-shot KO guy. He can, but he just doesn't all the time, you know? He's a volume guy. And so that was really just a matchup thing. But anyway, you know, Justin Gaethje is one of those guys who could drop you with one shot. That's going to be interesting. The only issue is going to be finishing Charles, because they got to go to the ground and try to punch him out. They're going to have to if they're going to finish him. If Charles gets hit and he gets rocked too badly, he's going to fall to his back. And that is where he's going to have the advantage over almost all of his opponents. Justin is going to have to deal with that. All I know is Justin ends up in a similar scenario that Dustin was in. He's getting tapped out immediately because we know Justin Gaethje's ground game got exposed. But that's going to be an interesting fight. They said that's a horrible matchup for Charles, and oh my gosh, it's going to be so terrible. Okay, we'll see. We'll see. I see, honestly, something very similar happening. Charles coming out with a very high pace, pushing Gaethje back, getting cracked a few times, Justin getting tired, and Charles taking his back. That I literally see it going very similar to the way this one went. And Dustin has, just to remind you, Dustin has a way better technique on the feet than Justin does. So, yeah, that one's going to be interesting. That one's going to be really interesting. In my opinion, the worst nightmare for Charles is still Michael Chandler, because Michael can go to the ground with him and be safe. That's going to be his biggest. That's going to be his biggest challenge. And Michael has that power, the hardest hitter in this division, to really make a difference, you know. And he has bulletproof takedown defense. So does Justin, but, you know, Michael just has it all to really beat Charles. It just depends on if Michael fights smart, you know. Anyway, so a lot of people made a lot of flack towards me because they were like, Conor is a bad. My thing is that Conor is so accurate with his punches. Yeah, if Charles come out trying to back Conor up like that and he grabs it, Conor's going to gas out before all of those guys. My thing is that my only problem with that fight is that it'll only take one from Conor to put Charles down. That's all I said. Because Conor's accurate and he hits hard. And Charles has his chin straight in the air and he's hittable. He's very hittable. That was my only issue with it. Is the accuracy and the power of Conor could really put Charles down. But it'll be hard to finish him. It's hard to finish Charles. Anyway, so moving on. I really just hope if Oliveira beats Gaethje, which I do think that he will. I hope he does at least. I really hopes that he really ends Islam Makhachev. Nothing against Islam. I just do not want to see Khabib looming over a division again. I'm tired of Khabib tweeting and saying things about the champions and voicing his opinions and crap talking. Dude, he gets on my nerves so much. I cannot stand Khabib right now. He tweets and he tweets and he tweets, and it's kind of like a bit of arrogance. It's like, I get to tweet because I'm 30-0 and I get to talk crap. And it's like, nah, bro, you're 29-0 and you decided to wimp out once Charles started making his way up the division. But you know what? It is what it is. So I really hope that he chokes out Islam Makhachev. That would make me so happy. I do not want Islam to have the belt. I hope Beneil Dariush stops Islam Makhachev, but I don't think it's going to happen. It's a hard matchup because, in my opinion, Islam can't strike with Charles. Islam cannot. Everybody like, oh, Islam is a better striker than Khabib. He's a better striker than Khabib. That doesn't make him elite, you guys. Khabib doesn't have good technique on the feet either. He's just explosive. Islam doesn't have that great a technique on the feet either. So it's like, you know, he's a better striker than Khabib, but he's not a better striker than Poirier, not a better striker than Gaethje, and he's definitely not on the striking level of Charles. So that's going to be interesting. So now that we got the main event out of the way, let's go straight to the questions. All right, so our one and only question comes from my boy, I'm going to just call you Weege, because I cannot pronounce your name, bro. Just know that I know you because, you know, you've been a long-time supporter of the channel, and you show a lot of love under the videos, but yeah, bro, like, I'm not going to try and pronounce your name. But he basically asked, if I had a friend that knew nothing about MMA, what would be the first fight that I'd introduced him to, pretty much, out of the whole catalog of the UFC fights? And I would say probably Aldo versus Mendez 2. Or, you know, if you need a more recent example, probably Holloway versus Yair Rodriguez. That'd be a good one. I'd probably show them Adesanya versus Gastelum too. Versus Gastelum. I mean, there's a few that I could show them. I'd show them a whole catalog. Why just show them once? Show them one. Honestly, I would, if you were depending on a card, honestly, I would introduce them to this card tonight. I would have been like, hey, there's a bunch of UFC fights on. You should come watch it with me, and we would have watched this one because this one was a great card. But yeah, so good question though. So if you guys enjoyed the podcast, please let me know in the comment section below. If you guys want your questions answered on the podcast, just leave your questions under this one. I will like your question just so you can know that it'll be answered, and then you'll answer them on the next podcast. So it's been your boy Trippy, and I'm out, man.